You just listened to Ryan Stevenson, Always Been You. And Kevin, I chose that because the one thing I do know about you, Kevin is always Kevin. It's one of the things I appreciate about people a lot. People who, you can bank on it. They always the same. They never roller coaster. I'm sure we all have our moments, but Kevin, always been you, buddy.
Yeah, you do you, or as my mother says, the Lord only made one of you because that's all we can handle.
Yeah, which is true, of course. I would not like to see too many Peters out there. I mean, can you imagine everybody was like me and you? The world would have a meltdown.
Peter, I think that's what's referred to as a copyright infringement.
Yeah. No one can be a Kevin Abbott the way you could be a Kevin Abbott. And I know you get it, but you wouldn't want to be anybody else.
A little while ago, I asked a friend of mine who runs a social media company if she would help to handle my social media for me, Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she said, for my professional services. And she said to me, Kevin, I actually, thank you, I'm flattered, but I can't because I can't do you. There are other companies and organizations that, I can do stuff for, but for you, I can't because I can't do you.
And it's also, kudos to her because knowing what you get at and where you pitched and what your niche is.
I was both impressed and not. Impressed because that was a really sweet thing to say. Not impressed because now I have to do everything myself.
I feel for you. I have to do a lot of social media as well. It's not always, corporate social media is not always as fun as people seem it is. To get onto Facebook personally every once in a while and do something, that's cool. But when it becomes a have to on certain exact days, it becomes somewhat tedious sometimes.
Peter, it's called scheduling.
Yes, it is, which I'm having to force myself to do, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a great scheduled person, but when it comes to the social media posts, I've learned to do it and to stick to a schedule because that's the only thing that really helps. But how did we get onto the subject? My goodness me. Maybe because it's lockdown, Kev, you and I... It's the one thing that I really appreciate, by the way, about Absolute Life is that I get to chat to you every single week. And before we started this a few years ago, we would go months without talking to each other. And it's been great, Kev. It's been a wonderful ride. It's been a great journey together as we've watched the show develop. And I trust the listeners are appreciating that too. And I'm going to say again how blessed and honored we are to have you on the show. But it also highlights a point that I think you were making, the importance of staying in touch during lockdown.
Peter, not only staying in touch with others, but staying in touch with your business, staying in touch with yourself, staying in touch with the wider world around you. We really need to, especially in this lockdown where we have time. Yes, I know some of us have families that, tend to distract from a solid working environment at home. But if we're not staying in touch with ourselves, what's going on within us, because this is a very strange time, Peter. We've never experienced this before. And what is happening to our mental state, our emotional state, our spiritual state, Lord knows with the lack of exercise, our physical state, if we're not staying in touch with that, we're going to get a very, very rude awakening when lockdown eventually ends, whatever lockdown level that might be, level 2 probably for most of us.
Yeah.
And we actually need to be now preparing ourselves, getting in touch with where we are, where our business is, where the market has turned to. Some of us might not have jobs when we get out, or our jobs might be radically different. But the fact is, we need to be in touch. Most importantly, the one thing that we can control, ourselves.
There's a harsh reality in the things you're saying, and I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. Some companies have unfortunately folded during this time, and I'm hesitating to even say it because I don't want to amplify bad news. It's just not who we are, and it's not what the program is, but it's a harsh reality. Some businesses have closed. And yeah,
I think we can just sum that up, Peter, by saying that the world around us has changed. Some for the better, some more challenging.
And I guess, if any of the listeners are in that position where they think that might be in jeopardy, I guess I'm going to just put it out there, Kevin. Listeners, I spoke to Kevin early on and I said to him, why don't we talk about the things that we need to do to bounce back whenever that might be? And Kevin quite rightly corrected me and said, well, let's not keep it to corporate, but let's personalize it as well to the everyday person. And for some of the everyday people out there, and I want to use that not condescendingly, I'm talking about the average person who is normally employed, we might have to look for new opportunities. And maybe our bouncing back would be keeping our ear to the ground. That's why I said I like what you said about staying in touch with the world around you.
I said it 2 weeks ago, Peter, that catchphrase to be around for the rebound. And the fact is, if you're not doing some kind of introspection, let me paint you a picture.
Go for it.
Let's say you are standing on a piece of grass, and there's some white lines on the grass. And you're looking around, you're taking in the scenery, and all of a sudden, you hear a gunshot. You duck and you hit the floor, and you're looking around, what's going on? And you see 7 other people all running away from you. And you think, hang on, what's going on? And you see that your lane on the 100-meter sprint track is empty because you're not in it. And you're wearing flip-flops, shorts, and a lovely little T-shirt with a My Little Pony sticker on it.
And a hat.
And a pink cap. Now, the thing is, being around for the rebound means you need to be aware of what's happening, first of all, to you, and what's happening around you. So that when you see there's that guy standing off to the side, and he's lifting up his arm with a gun in it, that you need to get into your starting position and get ready to take off. And a lot of us are going to find ourselves looking at the crowd in our slops and board shorts, and we're not going to be ready for that starting gun when it eventually goes off, because we don't know when it's going to go off. And unless we are prepared for it, and we have got ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, whatever we can do, whatever we need to do, ready, we're going to find ourselves coming very short when the rebound comes. When you go surfing, Peter, you need to start paddling before the wave gets there, otherwise you miss it. Correct.
You're speaking to a man who loved surfing in his younger days, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
You've got to start paddling before the wave crests, before it gets to you, so that you have the sufficient momentum to catch the wave, which then boosts your momentum. When you're surfing down that wave, that's not your momentum that you created. That's the momentum of the ocean that's pushing you.
Yeah.
But you needed momentum in order to get onto that wave, to catch it, and to make the best of it. It's exactly what's happening now, is that now that we're heading into lockdown level 4, and then eventually into 3, into 2, hopefully we don't go backwards. But if we're not ready to catch that wave, we're going to end up being left behind. The wave's going to roll on. We're just going to slide over the top, and we're going to be left in the doldrum.
And if you take your example one step further, if anyone's ever watched a surfing competition, that wave selection is everything. And about who gets on the wave first. If you get on the wave first before your competitor actually has to pull back. Otherwise, they will get penalized in that competition. So first one on the wave is the one that gets it. And
right of way.
Yeah, and it's an unfortunate competitive truth about life. Those people that are going to stay sharp and keep in touch with the world around them are going to be the ones that are going to get the opportunities, Kevin.
And the reason that the surfers who get the wave is because they have positioned themselves.
I love it. Yeah, correct. We could be having this conversation on a normal life coaching session, and it would be relevant, because positioning yourself is something that I think every life coach teaches. And I know you've done some, you've had some, as have I. And positioning is so important. Lockdown or no lockdown.
Well, Peter, the thing about the positioning now is that for every industry it's different. So that's technically why we're speaking in principle rather than in specifics, because positioning for each industry and for each business is going to be different, which is why each person needs to do their own introspection. They need to sit down and take stock of where they are, where they want to be, and start planning for eventualities.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, for how long it's going to happen. We don't know so many things. Nobody's been in this situation before. I don't think we've had a plague since the 1600s.
Correct.
You know, Peter, you might remember it back in your youth, but you know,
the black plague.
But for the rest of us, we don't know how it's going to pan out, and the result of that means that we need to do as much preparation as we can in attempting to future-proof, not necessarily even our business, but just ourselves.
Yeah.
If this is going to happen, then I need to do this. For example, here's the thing, Peter. And I've said this before on the show, I thought I was being remarkably clever, diversifying my earning potential between real estate and entertainment. Because, I mean, come on, if the one fails, the other surely won't, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought I was being rather smart. And then both of them end up taking a swift kick to the solar plexus.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jean-Claude Van Frickin' Damme. And now we're in a position where I'm thinking, okay, so that happened. How do I move past this? How do I create a means of sustaining myself? As a result, I have had to very, very quickly create a website and create a profile on several online platforms where I can start to do voiceover recording, which I wasn't really focusing on beforehand. But it's something I can do. And it's something that I can do from home. And it's something that people in the online world that we've moved into require. So I've had to redistribute my resources in the current milieu, as it were. I'm still doing the real estate, and I will still eventually do the MC and the entertainment again.
Of course.
But right now, that which has the potential for me to earn until potentially level 2, because that's where real estate is. We're petitioning to make it level 4, but it's currently level 2. That's a long time still that I need to try and sustain myself.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm having to do it.
I'm going to throw you a curveball, and it's right in the flow of what you're saying. As a species, we're not really fond of change and transition. And I know a lot of people speak about the paradigm shift, but we're not quick. We're not naturally quick to do that. But Kevin, this is really, as you've quite used the right adjective, it's kicked us into paradigm shift, rather adverb rather. We don't have a choice but to embrace change and embrace that paradigm shift. Even those of us who are working for certain companies, we might find that when we get back, those companies are going to be doing something completely different.
Well, Peter, the thing is, change happens on 2 levels. It can be macro or micro.
Yep.
Macro change is the big picture. Micro is the right here and now. And we're pretty good as a species at adapting in terms of the macro.
That is true.
In terms of the micro, this is where we struggle.
Yeah.
The micro changes that we are having to go through at the moment are causing a lot of I think one of the big industries that's going to take a really big shot in the arm and a boost is going to be the therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist. I think a lot of people have been traumatized by the lockdown.
That is true.
And I think there's going to be a lot of couples counseling and a lot of family counseling going on. But having said that, I think that those who adapt to the micro the fastest will stand the best chance of moving forward once the wave arrives at us. We will have the momentum.
I love that example. I love your model. I love this whole surfer, wave, paddling, getting momentum. And I think that's probably the best encouragement and the best advice that we could give to anyone right now. And it kind of hooks into what we said last week, Kev. Whatever you do, avoid the couch potato status.
I'm going to say one more thing, Peter.
Yeah, please do. Go for it.
With the surfer
yeah,
analogy.
Go for it.
There are too many people who are sitting on the couch right now, or in their bed, or on the chair listening to this radio station, who are afraid to get their feet wet. And I need to tell you that you are not going to be able to catch the wave until you actually get off your backside and get your feet wet. You have to do something. Even if it's one thing. When you finish one thing, you can always do another thing.
Brilliant.
And then when you finish that, you can do another thing. Just one thing at a time. But do something. Because when you do enough things in a row, that's called momentum.
Awesome. Abbott, that is the Abbott moment of the week. Please say that again.
When you do enough one thing in a row, that's called momentum. And momentum will get you onto that wave when it comes.
Kevin, that's brilliant advice. That's awesome, and I want to leave us right there. That is brilliant. And we've spoken about it before, and it's amazing how many things we're saying under lockdown are actually just great life principles. Kev, awesome advice, awesome coaching, and thanks so much for that. And yeah, best of luck with that reinventing of yourself there, boo.
I'm doing my best, Pete.
Stay sane, and we'll chat again next week.
Indeed. Ciao for now.
Thanks, Kev. Ciao, ciao. Kevin Abbott, as always. Let's go back to the music. I'll be back with you in just a bit.